So I wanted to give a little discussion on mortar here because I happen to today kind of have the basic ingredients that we're working from, sort of like the primary colors you start with in painting. So what we have here is, to the right we have a 94-pound bag of Portland cement. Then we have a 50-pound bag of high calcium hydrated lime, otherwise known as Mason's lime or type N lime. And we have a wheelbarrow, and it happens to have about six shovelfuls of sand in it. So what's interesting about this is what we have here. Basically, any mortar you want to talk about, it comes down to these three ingredients. And I guess we'll start with the most common thing you're going to find is you go into Home Depot. You're going to find 60-pound bags of what's called Quickcrete Mason's Mix. Let's say it's a type N. So what those actually are is that's a mix with the sand already in it. So let's say it's going to have, and I think you're a little smaller than this, but just to make it simple, it would have Portland cement already in the bag, a certain amount of lime, about 50-50 Portland and lime. So let's say one shovelful of Portland, one shovelful of lime, and that's 2 shovelfuls total of binder, and it would have about 5 shovelfuls of sand. And that would be your 60-pound, just add water, Quickcrete Mason's mix. So that's kind of marketed more towards small jobs or the amateur, which is why they put it in a 60-pound bag, because the stuff that's marketed more to the professionals, like 94-pound bags. Anyway, so that's your basic Quickcrete. You need to do a quick job, you grab it, it's already got your sand, your Portland, and your lime. So what are the other thing, with actually the thing that I normally work with is what's called Quickcrete Masonry Cement. And that comes in a 70-pound bag. And I get type N masonry cement. And once again, that's about a 50-50 mix of Portland cement and hydrated lime, but without the sand. So if you don't have sand on site, and if it's a small job, you get the 60-pound Mason's mix, which already includes the sand. If you've got sand on site, you are going to save yourself a lot of money by getting the 70-pound masonry cement, which is essentially a mixture of these two raw ingredients that are already blended together and properly metered to make a type N conventional mortar. And just by chance they didn't have the masonry cement, so luckily I knew that I could buy a bag of Portland, get a bag of lime, and essentially make the exact same mixture simply by doing 1 scoop of Portland, 1 scoop of lime, and then you mix that with, like I said, about 5 scoops of sand. We sometimes say that you want 3 parts sand to 1 part binder, but really the specification is closer to 2.5 parts sand to 1 part binder. So, and you can just sort of roughly figure that out with your shovel, but you actually want the binder to be a little bit richer than a 1 to 3. You want it closer to a 1 to a 2.5. What are some other mixes you can make here? Okay, so if you just take the lime with no Portland and you mix that 1 part lime with 2.5 parts sand, that's going to create the ancient mortar. That's like the pre-1900 mortar. And that's pure lime mortar. And there's some tricks to working with it. Its compressive strength and its resistance to weathering are like somewhere between modern mortar and like adobe mud. It's a very soft mortar. It has to be cured properly. It's best used under an eave. The great thing about it is that when a structure's built with that, it's very, very easy to repair, very easy to rebuild, because that old mortar, it doesn't adhere terribly to the rocks. It's very easy to reuse the rocks and rebuild a lime mortar structure. So it's a niche thing now, but I use it sometimes in real historic work where you look at a building that's never had modern mortars, an old building that's never been restored with modern mortars. I'm not going to be the first guy to break that seal. So I'll use lime mortar and I'll do it right. Also, if I was building a structure purely for my own pleasure that I wanted to last for 1,000 years, I would use pure lime mortar, because I'm thinking ahead to the next guy that comes and works on it in 100, 200 years. It's hard to explain, but it's just easier to do deep rebuilds and pointing and maintenance with the lime mortars. So, but let's go to the other extreme. Let's say you don't use lime at all. Let's say you take that Portland cement and you mix that with 2.5 parts sand. That makes like a gray, like rock hard mortar that I do not like. It is actually not the ASTM specification for any kind of brick or rock masonry, and it's been used all over the place here in New Mexico, particularly like back in the 50s and stuff. And you can see it, a lot of it's in that wall. That gray hard mortar that I'm always struggling with is pure Portland and sand. The only place I'd really use that is maybe putting a cap on the wall, because it is like up top where it's just laying as a cap, because it is very, very weather resistant. It's very hard, but it's really not a suitable mix for the bulk of a wall or pointing a wall, in my opinion. And you can even look on the Portland cement bag, and it tells you, like it tells you to be mixing it with 1 part Portland to 1 part lime to make a ASTM type N mortar. So they're not even telling you to use straight Portland, but a lot of people have done it, and it is not the right way to work. So the real point of this is you can save a ton of money if you're buying bags that don't already have sand in them, because you're not paying for sand. If you can get sand from the site, you're saving a lot of money. And if you're going that way, you've got two choices. If you can find the 70-pound masonry cement type N, you can use that, just that in the sand, and you're fine. If you can't find it, if you can find Portland, you're going to need to find lime, because just using that gray bag of Portland with sand is not a recommended practice. So hopefully this saved people from making some mistakes that somebody will have to struggle with in 50 or 100 years.